first up today, we have the next big thing, the second next big thing that we're sharing with you throughout these 2 days at EntreConf. We encounter extraordinary businesses in the region all the time, and this one's in conjunction with Harbourside Corporate Finance. So here is Holly Edwards-Davis, its Corporate Finance Director, to tell us a bit more. Hi, Holly. We have a microphone that matches your outfit, especially. Tell us about Harbourside. What types of corporate finance work do you guys do?
So we provide advice on raising finance, preparing businesses for exit, business valuations, finding a buyer, and advice on acquisitions and due diligence, and supporting business owners through the whole sale process.
So what was the reason you wanted to be involved in EntreConf?
Well, EntreConf is just such a fantastic network, and the quality of the conversations and the connections being made in the events I've been involved with, I think it's something quite special.
A lot of people were commenting on that yesterday, actually. It's not just about the content that you're getting, which is amazing, but the people that you're connecting with throughout. Exactly. And you particularly wanted to be involved and sponsor this talk with Furqan that's coming up. Why was that attractive to you?
Well, I think what struck me was the innovation and the ambition, and it's not only the economic impact, but the way that it will affect our day-to-day lives and the way we live and the way we travel and the environment around us as well. And I think the scientific developments will not only make an impact in the sector and transform the sector, but also open doors for many other entrepreneurs in the industry as well.
It's an incredible story. Thank you so much for your support, Holly. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So, a little bit more about Furqan and Sora Aviation. At last year's EntreConf Awards, we met and found out about this incredible company, and they won the pre-rev category, by the way. The 20-word description provided was: a new startup designing the only EV-TOL bus aircraft for the masses, pioneering sustainable urban air mobility and transforming connectivity. So we just had to know more about that. Here he is Furqan, the founder of Sora Aviation.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for your time today. This is really a great honor, and thank you, EntreConf. So traffic sucks. I think we can all agree on that. We spend hours and hours crawling through congested roads, wasting time and energy that we'll never get back. Time we could be spending with our friends, our families, doing the things we love. Now, 10 years ago, Uber proposed a solution to traffic congestion that sounded insane to the aerospace industry. They suggested people would fly in 4-seat electric aircraft that could take off like helicopters and fly forward like airplanes. They call these EV-TOLs or air taxis. Now, since then, nearly $20 billion have been put into hundreds of these air taxi concepts. The market leaders like Joby Aviation and California have developed really impressive aircraft and are only a couple of years away from certification. Our contrarian view at Sora, though, is that for this form of aerial mobility to truly be affordable to the average person, much higher passenger capacities are needed. And that's why we're developing a 30-seat EV-TOL bus rather than a 4-seat air taxi. Now, it may sound really futuristic, what I'm trying to propose here, but believe it or not, from the 1960s to the 1980s, 30-seat helicopters were really successful at carrying people on 10 to 15-minute flights in urban areas at ticket prices of about 50 to 60 pounds in today's money. This particular helicopter flew 20 flights a day between Heathrow and Gatwick in 15 minutes for 12 pounds in the 80s, 60 pounds today, and carried tens of thousands of passengers a year. It eventually ended in 1986 when the M25 was opened and the government wanted to push people onto the roads. Driving between Heathrow and Gatwick on the M25 today can easily take an hour to 2 hours, and an Uber can cost anywhere between 80 to 100 pounds. This is the S1. It's an all-electric tilt rotor that can take off and land vertically. It can carry 30 passengers at a range of 100 miles. We've just finished the preliminary design of the aircraft, and we're on track for a first flight in 2028 and entry into service in 2031. The S1 will turn drives of 1 to 2 hours into flights of 10 to 15 minutes at ticket prices of about £50. And at Sora, we believe that advanced air mobility should be for everyone. Thank you.
Big thing, and yes, this is, thank you so much, very good. Yes, this is a potentially transformative piece of technology. Potentially, it absolutely is. But actually, it's rooted in the past. As you described, what was happening in the 80s, and I love the way that you have had the vision, and others have had the vision to apply some of the thinking then in a new form. But come to the genesis of Sora, Furqan, if you may. How did you think of getting involved?
So in 2018, when I was working for GCAN, a really large aerospace company, we started looking into this market and what it would mean for the traditional aerospace industry, and really GCAN in particular. And we realized there were a number of these really innovative startups developing really impressive aircraft, but their scale, like I say, they were all limited to 1 to 6 seats. And as we were looking to the market, it was obvious that most of the trips were expected to take people from city centres and areas around cities to the airport. Bristol Airport is a great example, going from areas around Bristol into Bristol Airport. Those helicopter services I showed are another good example. And it was then obvious to us that if you wanted to move a lot of people from the same place to the same place, you needed larger aircraft. So we proposed the idea to GCAN. We spent 5 years proving its feasibility at this large aerospace company before spinning out to pursue it commercially.
So we've got the context of the past, has been explained, the context of the immediate impulse, but two other pieces of context. Talk about the importance of the aerospace sector within the Bristol region, the part that has played in your genesis and your connections and relationships, but also talk about academia, the connections of the university, your own experience and involvement, that again at EntreConf many times have made the point that the academic impulse, the universities play such a part in helping businesses develop.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the Concorde up on the screen there. Filton is really where aerospace is in the UK. There are thousands of engineers in the Bristol area. There's really no other logical place, I think, in the UK if you're going to start an aerospace company other than Bristol, and the universities, like you say, Bath, Bristol, UE. We have fantastic universities in the area, all really excellent at aerospace research, all really willing to collaborate with small companies instead of just focusing on the aerospace giants, and that's been really useful for us. And we announced some major partnerships with those universities yesterday.
Did you? Well, tell us more about that immediately. It was announced yesterday. Tell me.
So we were fortunate enough to receive a over £2 million projects from the Aerospace Technology Institute, both to progress battery technology for this aircraft, as well as coming up with new ways of designing these novel aircraft, especially through the use of AI. Where we're working with Bath and Bristol and the local universities in doing that.
You mentioned, and I think you were in Japan at the time, you mentioned you were hoping this would come through in time, and yes, it's come through. So fortuitous that we have this platform to talk about that. And we'll come on to your bigger funding plans. You're potentially looking to raise of the order of $1 billion or pounds. Doesn't matter when it's a billion, I guess. Yeah. We'll come to that in a second. Tell us this. And I put it in very simplistic terms because it applies to any form of new business. How much of what you're doing is proprietorial? In other words, is what you're doing a new mousetrap or a better mousetrap?
That's a really interesting question. I think we're at the point where batteries and electric motors and low-cost flight controllers have all come to a point where they're mature enough that a large electric aircraft is now feasible. Much of the construction of the aircraft and aircraft design principles are very traditional, but we're bringing in this influx of new technologies, primarily electrification and partly autonomy, to enable this. So it's really a combination of both.
What I particularly liked and found intriguing about this as a business prospect, you're at an inflection point in terms of the battery value charging, etc., but also sort of confluence of societal impulses about ecology, about time spent travelling, about increasing urbanisation, meaning that it's actually longer to get to airports within cities and around airports as a result. So do you see yourself as responsive, as beneficiaries to that? How far does that play a part in your thinking about your strategy, and indeed when you're talking to investors about the destiny of your business?
It's huge. It's huge. There are 8 billion people in the world today, about 55% of whom live in urban areas. By 2050, there will be 10 billion people in the world, about 70% of whom are expected to live in urban areas. Traffic congestion is not just not going away. It's going to get worse. We're maxing out on infrastructure within large cities. We've all experienced traffic congestion, every single one of us. When I put that slide up, you've all been in that situation, and so have investors. And I think that's a big part of what drives us, addressing that problem.
That's again, it's a point which comes out with so many entrepreneurs. It's recognising a problem, which may even be a personal problem, about how you get around, how you get to airports. I suspect with your travel plans, you probably miss 1 or 2 flights due to congestion. And then, of course, it applies from the investor's point of view. There is that humanity, that connection. We've all been there on that blooming M4 or M25, whatever it might be. Tell us about the first round of investment, something like $1 million raised via angel investors. How did you go about that? Who were the angels? What was your pitch?
So we spent some time looking for investments. Came up with a fairly basic pitch deck, to be honest. Cold emailed a lot of people. We were aerospace engineers, did not know any angels or VCs. Didn't hear back from anyone, surprisingly. And I was at a conference one day sitting next to someone who was talking to me, and I was just explaining to him the sort of things I was interested in, electric aircraft. And he said, by the way, I'm an investor. And I think we had dinner that night, and I just kind of pitched him live. We ended up talking, and he ended up investing and bringing an ex-colleague of his to invest with him. So it's funny, really. We found investment when we were least expecting it and weren't really looking for it in that time.
Isn't that a great story? And again, the takeaway from that is that good things can happen randomly. Brackets, especially at conferences. That was in Singapore.
It was.
Yeah. And when you say you pitched over dinner, was it an hour you went straight to it, and then or how did it work? You were sitting mano a mano or whatever. How much did you raise, and what was the response?
Yeah, we were just standing, really, and no slides, nothing. I was just explaining why I thought electric aircraft needed to go bigger, why the economies of scale make sense when you split the cost of the trip over a greater number of seats, and to him it was obvious, and the raise was about $1 million, and more committed to the next round.
Wowzers. And you are seeking to raise a further up to $1 billion, possibly more, up to $1 billion. Talk us through for what, when, and from whom, and indeed how.
$1 billion is said to be around the number you need to certify an electric aircraft in today's market. And there are companies who have spent more than that already, to be honest. We think it can be done for less, especially in the UK, nearly for half of that, which is still a fairly large number. And that's down to 2 reasons. The cost base in the UK, engineers in the UK are just as good as engineers in California, but cost significantly less. And we have all the talent we need to do that here. And the second is learning. There are companies developing these 4-seat aircraft who are pioneering this new type of aircraft, and we have the ability to watch and learn from them as they're pushing the boundaries. Where are we going to raise $500 million to $1 billion? That's a question I ask myself every day. correct. That's
well,
what keeps me
and
up at
I'm
night.
asking you, so come on.
Yeah. It'll be most of the investment so far in this sector has come from VCs and corporate VCs in the airline world, VCs in deep tech, climate tech, and those sorts of places. That's where we're hoping to raise as well. Most of the investment offers we have had so far have all been from outside the UK, and we're hoping that there are UK investors willing to come with us on the journey to sustainable aviation.
We'll come on to that competitive position, but talk about the international side. You were telling me the other day that there's a landmark deal that there has been an official air taxi partner being appointed for the LA Olympics in 2028. It's not you, yeah. but it's both validation of the sector, but also publicity, profile for it as well. This thing is going from almost peripheral vision and it's going to become very central. So tell us about how that will play a part. So that LA Olympics is not so far away, and that is part of, I guess, almost part of your pitch, that this is becoming rapidly an important area. Get on board, literally.
Yeah, exactly. People seeing these aircraft fly at the LA Olympics, being able to fly on one of these aircraft at the LA Olympics will be transformational. All of these companies that are developing smaller aircraft, I don't really see them as competitors. I see them as people who will pave the way towards larger electric aircraft, which, in my opinion, are inevitable. So I really hope all of that goes extremely well, because that's only going to be good news for Sora and all of us who won't have to sit in traffic.
And that official partner of the LA Olympics, I think, is Archer. And Archer has raised something of the order of $2 billion so far. So already in this rapidly emergent sector, there is the classic 800-pound gorilla, the beer moth or whatever. Is that daunting that there is a well-funded, a little bit perhaps further advanced business? I'm not so sure. Or is it an indicator of the opportunity?
Archer raised another 850 million last week, so they're a bit of a bigger
Keep
gorilla
up.
now.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that's 2.85 billion.
Yeah. There's always a bit of both, but I think it's great. More investment in the sector will mean more skilled people. It'll mean technology develops at a faster rate, and eventually those small aircraft will want to scale, like I say. So that's not something we're afraid of. It's something we encourage, and we see it as a stepping stone, really, towards democratizing the service.
So this is. I'm sorry for these are almost puns. They're not intended to be. This is almost a blue sky business. Are there any clouds on your horizon? So all of this is out there. The technology, the proprietary element, the competitive set and being funded, etc., the societal need, the increased urbanization, the battery momentum, the ecological need, etc. What are the barriers? What are the clouds? What keeps you awake at night, other than all the flying you're doing and all the funds you're seeking to raise?
Yeah, apart from the funding side, I think there are two things. One is regulations. Aerospace has always been a heavily regulated field for very good reasons, and its safety standards are extremely high. Making sure that regulators keep up with industry, and industries, bring regulators on board. That's really, really important. That's the CAA in the UK, EASA, the FAA in the US. The second thing is perception. When you think of a flying bus, the first thing you think is that just sounds insane. But like I say, people used to fly around on flying buses, in the past. So it might not be that crazy. It's really getting over that initial really type reaction.
Yeah, and the really type reaction is also aided by that Olympics piece as well. That they will be ramping up in different ways. We'll come to audience questions in a moment. I just want to ask this, and I'll say this, Furqan, respectfully, about as a business scales, is the founding entrepreneur necessarily the right person to lead a much larger business? And I am saying it respectfully because the destiny of this business, it will be absolutely massive. And I'm also thinking, as a sidebar, if you think with perhaps Microsoft, with Bill Gates, an amazing company, but when he brought in Steve Ballmer, the world changed. How do you see your role developing as the business scales?
Ask me again in a few years when we're a much larger business. But
please come back and tell us. For now, though.
Yeah. I think so. I think founders are always going to be more motivated than anyone else brought in to run a business, I think. And if that's not true, then there's something fundamentally wrong with the startup in the first place. I'm really passionate about this. I'm really committed to this. My background is as an engineer, and my skills are really in aircraft designs, not running billion-dollar companies. But I do think that role will obviously change, putting more trust in the engineering team and letting them get on with the day job of designing the airplane as I grow the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all got a flavour of you as the pioneer, the visionary, but also the advocate for this. So it's open to audience questions, and I think Holly from Harbourside has a point. Holly, yeah. Sorry, can we get a mic? Very good, thank you.
Thanks very much. What's been the biggest surprise for you as CEO of Sora Aviation?
Just how little sleep the human body can run on. No, in all seriousness, I think how quickly the pace of change can happen. It'll sometimes feel like you're struggling pushing this boulder up a hill, and nothing feels like it's really progressing. And then in the space of a week, your funding lands, your partnerships solidify, you make technical breakthroughs, and from the outside, that can look like step changes. But really what it takes is a sustained level of persistent effort to be in the right place at the right time to capitalize on those opportunities.
Very good. Careful with the pushing the boulder up the hill analogy, because Sisyphus pushed the boulder up the hill, got all the way out there, and the bloody thing rolled back over his head and killed him. So there you go. That's not going to happen. Bit of a downer. Let's have some questions. Please put your hand up. Say your name and your company, please. Thank you. It's a mic coming to you. Yeah. There we go.
Really inspired by what you're trying to achieve there. My question is, I got really excited about Arrival and other sort of UK transportation tech, and then recently Zfly as well. Both went into administration. What do you think the key learnings are there from those two businesses?
I think capital management is really the big one for deep tech startups. Yes, it takes a lot of money to do hard things, but all of that capital really needs to be focused on a singular goal. For us, that goal is making electric aviation cheap, and through that particular aircraft. It's once you raise a big round, it's very easy, to be honest, to get carried away with the marketing side of things, with everything else that's not directly contributing to taking your product to market, ignoring everything else and focusing on that. I think that's key, and I think if you look closely at some of the deep tech companies that have been unsuccessful in the UK, that's kind of one of the root causes.
Thank you. And again, it's a hint of a pun. It's keep your feet on the ground, despite this wonderful funding. Was that Richard at the front, please? Yeah. And then Ursula as well. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, Richard Godfrey from Rocket Makers. It's fascinating what you're doing, and I'd love to understand a bit more about the sort of financial business model behind it. Are you just building the technology, or are you operating as well? And secondly, do we need pilots anymore? And what's your thinking on that?
Well, before I answer that, any pilots in the room? Okay.
Remember, it's being recorded, so there will ultimately be pilots watching.
Our business model is aircraft sales, and with aftermarket services for maintenance, battery replacements, and pilot training. And we'll be working with helicopter operators. We have a launch customer in South Korea, who's a current helicopter operator. The pilot side of things, I think technology is getting to a point where you could feasibly think about removing pilots from aircraft. But if you look at the operational costs of these aircraft, the pilot isn't the main contributing factor. It's usually things like maintenance, landing fees, energy. So I think we are going to have pilots on board aircraft for quite a while.
And I suspect that psychologically it's tough for us to imagine a driverless car, but the thought of a pilotless aircraft, not just yet, psychologically. Ursula, please. Ursula pitched yesterday as part of our pitch case, so yeah.
Hi, I'm Ursula from SoShare. My question for you is, you mentioned that you got 2 grants or fundings for batteries and for the airplane design. Obviously, batteries is where the really sexy money is right now, because whoever makes that breakthrough is going to really coin it in. Are you raising the billion for the batteries separately or the aircraft separately, or are both technologies tied together?
That's all in, really. That's to get the aircraft flying, certified, industrialized to market, including the battery side of things.
And will those batteries be used for other things? Are you thinking that far ahead, or are you just thinking purely on the aircraft?
The battery cells, really the battery cell market for aerospace is primarily driven by automotive. Electric cars, electric trucks are pushing cell development.
Yeah.
So we're buying cells, and the novelties in the pack design and the integration of that pack onto the aircraft, which is really non-trivial and very different depending on the aircraft configuration you look at. That's where our differentiator is, and that's what the grant focuses on as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't take any more. We're going to close the session shortly. Apologies. 2 or 3 last questions. One, for the West Country, come back to the roots. Whilst the funding, to that extent at least, may not be there, what impact on jobs on the region? How much are you going to be able to build here? What does the 4 or 5 year time horizon look like?
Yeah, it'll take something like 300 to 500 engineers to do this. So we're talking about hundreds of jobs in Bristol, an industrial facility where you can build airplanes, go and test airplanes. That's been done here before. Very, very impressive aircraft have been designed and built in the West Country before. So we're kind of standing on the shoulder of giants to do that.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, including, of course, Concorde, those 50 years back or so. Secondly, if all goes to plan, when might you literally have takeoff?
We're targeting first flight of a prototype in 2028 and entry into commercial service in 2031.
And then the other, of course, is the ultimate destiny, which we're always interested in with businesses. Where do you see this? You are a rapidly emergent business, already pretty well funded, but about to be, one hopes, extremely well funded in such a key area. Are the majors hovering? Are they are you on their radar? These are all unpuns, honest. Is that where Sora might end, or are you going to be a roll-up play yourself, or are you going to be taken on? How do you see it?
I spend most of my time just thinking about the airplane, designing it, building it, getting it to market. There will be opportunities coming along the way. There have been opportunities that are already here, but our vision is to take this all the way.
That's a great answer. Imagine if you're an investor, you'd be thinking, this is all very level-headed. This is extraordinary takeoff opportunity, an amazing. I've done it again. This is unconscious, honestly. You can begin. You're completely vested in all respects in this, but you can begin to think how this might have substantial impact. The opportunity in all different ways for jobs, for society, for the business, for transportation, the whole piece. It is a remarkable story. We're very grateful to have heard it, and we do want to hear more at a subsequent time. I would like to thank Holly from Harbourside, our partner on this, and especially on your behalf, thank you to Furqan for the amazing story of Sora Aviation. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you, everyone.